All right, man. We live, man. We are live. Radiohead, Blue Pillar, Red Pillar. First episode on the new YouTube channel.
Yes.
This channel's dedicated to hip hop media, man.
Oh
How
man,
does it feel, y'all?
it's such a relief. You know what I'm saying? Because I wake up daily, and when I hit my phone and I'm looking for news because I am a news hunter, I look for the news to lead me for the day. I be wanting to know what's the going on in the world of hip hop. So I frequent these sites that call themselves hip hop media, and because they've kept me afloat for so long, I won't dump on them. I'm just saying that we need another standard in the market. We need someone that understands the culture, and the people that I'm listening to, they don't drink from the same trough as me. You know what I mean? They're like in the condo looking at somebody drink from the trough, and they on the phone telling you, "Yeah, so he drinking from the trough now." And it's like
Mm,
you don't even know what it tastes like. You have not even know what water to a parched throat means. So if you're not from the
mm,
culture, there's certain sentient nuances that you don't get. There's certain things that we don't have to make excuses for because we know. Them dudes be sitting up there
right.
trying to make excuses for the culture because they're not from it.
Indeed. As we get started, let me start out by asking y'all this. I want to ask a question. Since we're talking about hip hop media, and the name of the show tonight is Criminality in Hip Hop, and one of the hip hop platforms that people talk about, where people get indicted and
Uh,
go to jail from is Vlad TV.
you
I
just
want
gonna
to know, what do y'all feel about how do y'all feel about Vlad being embraced by hip hop platforms such as Cameron? I noticed he was on Cameron's platform the other day, Math Hoffa.
yes. Um,
And how do you feel about them embracing Vlad? Like, does that make you feel like maybe you're a little too radical, you're a little too extreme in your views?
um, I know that he wins by default. You know what I'm saying? I know that the fact that there's not a clean glass of water to hold next to him, right? We need to specifically in this space opening up this place that we are in Hippopolis, the home of hip hop. Let's be at the forefront and be forthright to say once again, for the people who have done their best holding down the culture, who have done their best keeping the mic hot, who have done their best and kept the lights on. Him, by being a passenger in a vehicle that has driven through the culture, he's been able to make for himself a very comfortable life and document key moments in hip hop. So by the metrics of what the media represents, he's being held up because if it's a numerical metric, yes, he has the torch. Yes. His consistency factor and his ability to not only create an audience or hold it, but continuously feed the algorithm with content. By far, we might complain about the content, but we're looking for that consistency. We're looking for, being at the forefront of media with specific interviews, regardless of whether we take it from a slant or not. So yes, he is he's definitely would be acknowledged as a leading candidate in hip hop media based on what's available right now. So I can't hate on that.
Indeed. Red, you want to add on to that?
Brad, I need you to please.
Yeah, like Blue Pill said that he's winning by default. He is seen as a journalistic, in this new age of new media and whatnot. Formula wise, he definitely has the formula. He should be boycotted by other media platforms, even if it's a silent boycott. He should not be, because it is what it is at this point. Shame on Cameron. Shame on all of the media platforms that have embraced him. Birds of a feather flock together. So when he's
Yeah.
on academics and when he's on Adam
Adam.
22, he
Right.
doesn't seem out of space, right? But when he gets embraced by platforms that don't need to embrace him, that need to worry about building their own quote unquote clientele, it's like what? But I can understand the strategy of digital convergence where Cameron and them might say, I want to dive into the 6 million people pool and whatnot and go fishing and see what I could pull out of this pool and whatnot. I'm going to steal his audience. He's not going to steal my audience.
Right. Cameron is playing the Harlem media game.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And he's gonna sit next to this person and absorb their audience because they don't have they ain't got that thing that he got.
Right.
He's gonna perform. It's performative for him. For Vlad is coming in to explain himself. When Cameron show up, he's showing up to perform. There's a difference. So he could put that finesse in, and again, by default, I mean, you would be either hating or just non-compliant with the facts and the metrics that are available right now. We're here speaking about, his platform has platformed people that self-indicted themselves and things of that nature. But them is the interviews he get, and then people keep going back, and the culture's already been notified.
Right. I would say that he should rename his hip hop platform to a true crime platform, which in the world of podcasts is the #1 genre. It's the most viral genre, which is true crime. Netflix was able to survive on true crime.
Yes, true crime.
Wow.
So even Jake 1090, he's in that particular genre. That's why I would say by default, Vlad is the father, right? Let's go there. Can you pull up the and I just want to make a point without myself being too contentious in terms of this being a cultural divide. If you could show the flyer, right? The flyer shows a tombstone, right? And there's one individual who's notorious for coming in the game and saying hip hop was dead, and that would be Nasir Jones. I believe it was around the time of, and correct me if I'm wrong, Red, you could probably look it up. This was 2005 or 6.
Stillmatic?
No, it wasn't Stillmatic. Stillmatic's when he buried Jay. Hip Hop is Dead is when he goes over to Def Jam.
Okay.
And he puts the tombstone up. But what I have been speaking about, and shout out to my brother Black Dot, and the reason to me this is also poetic justice is because, I'm coming full circle. I started in 2001 in hip hop journalism with Four Corners, and me and Dot, were putting our pen to paper and showing the world that the power's in the pen, if we properly narrate the culture. And when he said hip hop was dead, I made an observation that when our titans, the two twin pillars of hip hop, when we lost them to violence, which was a first in hip hop, right? Prior and up until that point, there had never been no leading candidates that was getting felled by, barrage, a blurry of bullets.
Scholar Rock was the first one.
Scholar Rock was the first, but that wasn't an internalized hip hop body. It wasn't a body for body type of situation. It didn't plant the seed for criminality. It was so respected that people kept the conversation about street business out of the music, right? Even though everyone was inquiring, they like, damn, well, what happened? You wouldn't find about it on a rap. You had to be part of the culture or the streets to know specifically what happened with Son. So when we lost the two titans, I was saying back then, hip hop was quote unquote dead and deceased, because where do you go from here? The best to have done it, the most promising light, the future, representing two divergent paths that crossed paths on some Gemini-ish, and they had to cancel one another out. So Big comes with Party and Bullshit, which is a repudiation of the roots of hip hop, which started with the last poets, right? Who ends their poetry on, it was the spoof poem that they did was Party and Bullshit. And it was about a coming generation of Negroes that would be so consumed with capitalism and commercialism, right? And partying and BSing that they're no longer participants or party to the struggle.
Right.
Because the party prior to that was the Black Panther Party. You understand? So these are what's called cubs of the parties. Tupac was a cub of the party. He was a cub panther. Mm-hmm. He represented the divergent lane of hip hop that was born in the roots of protest, that was born in the roots of the message. Big was born in the roots of Sugar Hill Gang, right? Hip hop, the party, the BS. So those two lanes is what creates hip hop during a time culturally where we have to make decisions as a people which road we're going to go through, right? Because coming from that environment that you showed on the flyer in the 70s, Nixon came with black capitalism and said there's a way out of this. You understand? You can get down with us and get some of the money. And then the majority of our people opted for that. And then the ones that stuck with the struggle represented the legacy and the history of what Tupac said. Yo, my mama couldn't stay in the spot because she couldn't make rent. Everybody turned their backs on the revolutionaries. His mother was the most famous one. If a Afeni couldn't catch a couch, it's looking bad out here. You feel me?
Right.
So he physically is the manifestation of the demarcation line that melanated people as a society had to make post the generation that dealt with the revolution. Big was what they call what? They said he was a tether. He wasn't foundational. He comes here, he don't share the same narrative, right? Even though my mama is working to put food on the table and my daddy left, the homies is, you know what I'm saying, hugging the block with that thing. She didn't even know that about her son. That's how much of a Gemini he was. She's like, he didn't have to do that, but he married the struggle on the opposite end, right? The medicine for that is party and BS. The medicine for that is, right, we're gonna play this game of capitalism and we're gonna dance with the devil. So, and then those paths collided. So when after hip hop was dead, after the Titans fell, after the Twin Towers collapsed in New York and the dust settled, who came directly after that?
Jay-Z.
No, he was already there.
Eminem.
Brand new in the game. Eminem and there's one more person.
Master P.
No, Master P came with, as they had before, he came with a death energy, a New Orleans energy, but DMX. As Anubis, as the Crypt Keeper. So hip hop was laid to waste and dead, and it had to be resurrected through the battle again, through spirituality and materialism had to clash in 2001 with Jay and Nas to see who's going to be the street disciples and what's the philosophy now that's going to lead our people to the promised land. Because yes, I'm standing on business to say hip hop has that power in terms of internalizing the message. If the word was first and we're not going to the church to hear it, we don't hear it on TV, you know what I'm saying? And if you're getting information that's either in the barbershop or coming out of a boombox. So these messianic forces, yes, they contain the message. So these are the progenitors, the propagators, and the people who push us proverbially to the promised land, pushing P. So I'm gonna rest there. Red.
Yeah.
Can you add on, please?
What was the question? If you don't mind.
I was speaking about hip hop and its afterlife.
Yeah.
You know,
I know that Rich said something about hip hop is dead.
Mm-hmm.
That aspect.
Yes, that's what I was hitting on.
What was the exact question from Rich about hip hop being dead? Rich?
We can't hear you. Mute.
You muted.
Yeah.
I didn't ask about hip hop being dead. I asked about Vlad.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I'm not sure if I had a second question, but I didn't say anything about hip hop being dead in particular. No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, we were speaking about the platforms once again and the atmosphere and the energy of the culture where a person would voluntarily walk on a platform and give themselves up. You know, that atmosphere and that energy is replicated by the fact that and media and hip hop media is being led by these non-melanated people who are not necessarily directly from the culture.
Right.
The same, I'm saying the same thing happened in music, and no disrespect to Eminem, I was a lot more critical of him in my younger years. Now I'm able to be a little bit more understanding and acceptive of the role that he has played. But he definitely was the white blood cell in a dying body of a if hip hop represented the body culture or the body politics of melanated people, we
Mhm.
were in a bad place. And he came with an energy that I think, you know, Pac wouldn't have let that ride. Big must have he would have got with it. He got with Dead Wrong and went super dark. So
No, that was done after he died. That was
Posthumous.
yeah,
it was
post.
posthumous, but it went together. Them verses that he had, or and went a little bit. So I'm saying Big was from that vein though. Big
Yeah,
was
yeah.
from the vein that the N was from, and he would have ended up embracing him. You know what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
level of darkness, he was with that.
He
I
was with
think
the yeah,
Pac would have seen it for what it was, and he would have caught that early. You know
right.
what I mean?
So after Hip Hop is Dead comes out in 2006, you have the earlier stages of zombie culture
Yes.
or zombie hip hop, the living, so what we're seeing right now where it's fully blown, where the artists literally like look at Kodak Black, right? Like look at
Mhm.
the zombie state that these artists are in. The
Catatonic.
mumbling,
Right.
the non-assertiveness in their approach, right? Just the whole lethargicness of everything. Zombie culture, rich junkie culture, like you know what I
And,
mean?
and vampire culture. So
Vampire culture.
all of these are extras for the thriller, right? All of the thriller extras is what's running the game right now. The zombies, the vampires, the ghouls, the goblins, and everything that represents death. The cemetery, where we seen Big leave it off at, life after death, March 29th, right? So we talking about yesterday was the anniversary of when the album dropped 28 years ago. Remember the power of that album? Did it drop last year on its 27th anniversary? That's when they picked up Puff. Or they raided the crib on that day.
Right.
Now you find out about the copyrights and you find out about what's really going on with the back office information dealing with the business, and you see that it wasn't right. But the minute that Mama makes transition, Mark Piss is trying to sell it for 100 plus million.
Now I read the article. She was already in negotiation of selling before her death, before her
Okay, she was
untimely
involved with
end.
that.
She was a part of that negotiations to sell 50% of the rights. They didn't sell everything. They
50%.
sold 50%, but I think it was maybe a majority share. It might be 60 or 51%. But
Right. For 100 M's?
for 100, well, they evaluated it at 200
I
after.
was about to say that's $1 billion catalog.
Yeah, they evaluated it at 200 mil.
Mm.
And somebody brought up 2006. You have the conversation of Lil Wayne being the best rapper alive. That's Wheezy era. That's mixtape Wheezy era. And yeah, he kind of represent. He brings the zombie flow. He
So,
brings
right.
the junkie flow. He brings
All
the
these children today are his children. So he's the father of that. So when Nas Jay stumbles, right? He caught an asterisk. It's like when Jordan got his ankle broke by AI. AI didn't win a championship. I don't even think AI won the game, right? But
Mhm.
that asterisk on the so-called GOAT, right, creates the question mark. So the same thing happened with Jay when he got chipped by Nas, and then Weezy was able to breeze past him with disrespect, with them Harlem niggas backing him up to say, nah, son, Jay ain't the GOAT. Jay's not, you know what I mean? You got Weezy on the scene, and son is about to eat his food. And then the younger generation responded to that. They loved the audacity of it. They loved the abrasiveness of it. And then he came in cloak and red and brought a whole culture. So everything we see today, if we're seeing Playboy Cardi being canonized and crystallized as one of the most pivotal parts of this moving piece that they call hip hop culture, what again, what we're looking at is, the cemetery of hip hop and him being the number one vampire. All of that comes from Wayne.
That whole album, I Am Music, is a Lil Wayne homage.
That's all homage to
That's
Wayne.
all. Yeah, that's all about Weezy. Um, we can have that conversation moving forward about what I have to label youth culture, because that's exactly, people are missing the point when it's called youth culture.
Yes.
And I'm damn near 50 years old. So the music that I listen to and I vibrate to, and what my ears pick up on and my nuances and everything will be different than somebody 13 years old. Right? Youth culture. They live in a completely different world. Even when Lil Wayne was coming up and he was doing what he was doing, he was bringing a whole generation with him that were basically sonically different than the old
Yes.
heads of the generation that they were trying to dethrone.
Right. So when old heads is telling they like, you don't hear Jay, he killing it. Like, nah, I don't. And then we thought it was blasphemy, like, oh, you got wax in your ear, right? Niggas start beating on their little nephews and stuff like that, treating them all because you don't see as I see, you don't hear as I hear. And sometimes that's the metrics that you utilize when you met people. Yo, what music you listen to? You know what I'm saying? What do you resonate with? So they have a different frequency because they're a different generation. They was born under different star systems. And we are at the end of Neptune and Pisces. Neptune is what? Drugs. Neptune is music, right? But it's also like the bass. It's the synthesized music. It's
Mm-hmm.
the stuff that you hear Playboy Cardi doing with them sounds, right? So the vocal inflections, the tones, that's all primordial. That's spirituality, right?
Or Neptune's the producers before that.
And Neptune's right, identify themselves as producers right off of the beach of Virginia. Neptune's is dealing with the water, subterranean realms, Hades, the underworld, darkness, right? So darkness is going to be in the music, is going to be reflected through people who more so are on the drugs while they're on the music. This is all Neptunian and Pisces energy. We're coming out of that today. Today is when this magnanimous cultural shift of Neptune or Pisces moving into Aries takes place. So, and we're identifying and seeing the ability and the semblances of hip hop reassembling itself, dealing with Aries energy, warrior energy. What did I say? I said last year Kendrick represented what? Confrontational hip hop, confrontational consciousness, where you're no longer just utilizing your consciousness to transfer information, you're weaponizing it. You're going to war with it, specifically, especially against a culture who has tried to clown consciousness. So you use consciousness and Christ consciousness as your shield, defeat the dragon, like Michael in that pictorial when the Archangel Michael is stepping on the dragon with the sword, and then you go into the underworld and you son the demons, because now them is your sons. And if the rules of the game is equitable, what happens? They got fall in line. What has happened? Have they not fallen in line? Are they not looking for a way to kiss the ring of the king?
Yeah.
So again, and that's why I'm saying I live in my Black Christos mythos, because I can make it make sense to me based on what I'm seeing. And that means that we're in a perfect world. That means that we're winning. And that means that the door is open for the opportunity now to lay a foundation. This of a different vibration and a different calibration, especially if you know what we're building.
Let me ask you, what do you think the difference? We grew up in the era of when we were younger, West Coast gangster hip hop. The topic of the show is criminality in hip hop,
Yes.
and examining West Coast gangster hip hop and what Death Row brought to the scene. I mean, everybody know what it was about when Death Row came on the scene, and if you can compare the Death Row era of gangster hip hop to the drill era of gangster hip hop and what we are seeing now, what would you say the major differences that have people saying this shit got to stop? They've gone too far with drill. If we seen Suge Knight, the biggest gangster, that one of the biggest gangsters we've seen in hip hop, what's the difference between what Suge was putting out there and what's one of their names? Give me one of their names. Chef D or whatever.
Chef
What?
G and the drillers, the blickies and all of them.
Right.
Okay.
Can I explain it? Oh, you going? All right.
Yeah. What I would say is the startling difference is that the artists were not the ones committing murders on death row. They had the ambiance of being backed by the gangs and whatnot, and there was always stories about somebody getting stomped out.
Right.
But in an organized crime syndicate, the capo and the boss don't get their hands dirty, right? Because they're too valuable. They're earners and whatnot, and they're made men. They let the soldiers do all of that.
Right.
The difference between that and the drill culture is that these street soldiers through the music became captains and capos. They rose up in their ranks and whatnot. They became bosses. They started signing other artists, but they all getting their hands dirty. Like K Flock, right? He was leading the drill movement in Brooklyn at a point, right? And he went ahead and got his hands dirty and got the RICO. And that's the same case with a lot of those other people. So now you literally have artists that are being unalive. So it's like the whole conversation of this not being real, this is a studio gangster, that's out the window. Homie got drama with some young dudes that hang out at a whip every Saturday night and spray his block up. They're not playing, right? This is what took place in Chicago, Philadelphia, the Bronx, New Orleans, Baton Rouge under Young Boy in them, Memphis,
yes,
like Dallas with Yayo and Texas, Houston with Sauce and all of them.
Everywhere Black America.
Not everywhere Black America. I'm talking about drill culture has become the order of the day. Even people who are not drillers have adopted it. LA adopted drill culture, bro. They're drilling in LA. That's not what they do. The rappers that they got, the Brick Babies of the world, and they got contingencies of young rappers who are drilling actively. They active. And this wasn't the case during the death row era like that. Like just based off of the people getting locked up and the charges, they didn't have stuff like that.
Right.
I would say my observation of it is that it's the difference between manhood and masculinity, right? Manhood or masculinity requires diplomacy. What we heard Suge was doing at the end of the day, he was attempting to get to a negotiation. Regardless if he was hanging you out the window upside down, he was looking to handle business. He was negotiating. That was his form of diplomacy. His language, his love language was a little bit more aggressive because
his love language was taking niggas from
the window. Yeah. we don't know what his upbringing was.
Oh man. What a love language.
Love language was I don't this is gonna hurt you. This will hurt me. It's gonna hurt me more than it's gonna hurt you. I really don't want to see you go out bad like this. But I'm showing you what my capabilities are of executing and doing it. If you push me to that limit, the drill is no negotiation, right? Everything is you gotta up the score. You know what I mean? It's about body for body. They're going body for body. You know what I'm saying? And there's no, so that's all feminine energy. You know what I'm saying? That's why they saying that they got two D's and what have you, and they operate out of the other one. They speaking through their D. This is the same thing Frances Cress Wilson told us it would be. She prepared the whole world for this particular time that we're at. This is colony collapse. This is what happens when the colony collapses. And the men identify themselves externally through apparatuses that were based on their anatomy, rather than man know thyself. And even if you took pride in your Sex Pistol, you know what I'm saying, as being the thing that you exercise your masculinity and dominance through, they're externalizing that in the form of a weapon that they're calling their D. And then when you cut the D off, what happens to them? They get emasculated and put in the box.
Mm.
And then when them niggas are in a box, then again, why is the toughest niggas in the street the niggas that's doing drawers behind walls?
Mm-hmm.
And also, we got to factor in prior to the Suge Knights and them entering into the music business, it was dominated by Italian and
Jewish
Bush
mobsters.
mafias.
Right.
And
Jewish
that
mobsters.
whole thing about hanging people off of the balcony and getting people for their publishing, like those figures were literally extorting and doing a lot of that stuff prior to black gangsters coming into the business and whatnot. But there obviously has to be something more dominant than them because none of them have ever broken through.
Mm-hmm.
And then the business plays a very wicked game because they have the feds who always, not always, but historically was aligned with organized crime through J. Edgar Hoover. The feds, like the feds was the attack dogs of what they call the underworld. So if you get too close and you start making too much noise, then they sick them people on you, and the feds will come and get you and whatnot.
And it's vice versa.
And it's vice versa.
Right.
If you get too crazy, the feds are sending boys after you to take you out or to do a hit and whatnot. They kind of work in tandem and whatnot. However, the gang members, well, there's a question that's on the table now. Has that relationship extended to the LA gang specifically? Right? Was there a relationship? Because even with this conversation that keep on going on about what happened to Pac and what happened to Biggie, there's involvement of LAPD, there's involvement of federal agents, and then there's involvement with street organizations, and somebody is protecting somebody.
So, because you referenced it and because of the nature of this show, this is about journalism. And one of the things that we have to do as journalists that's going to separate us from whatever they're doing is that we got recall, we got memory, and we remember where these stories took place and what happened. So you mentioned Valletta earlier. I want people to Google. Valletta Wallace had the county of Los Angeles on the ropes.
On the ropes.
They were about to pay her $500 million as a settlement because her lawyers found out that the LAPD had complicity with Chris getting unalived. And they had to pay her back pay, right? So the reason it became ballooning so much, and they said if she got the settlement, it would have bankrupt California because LA had to pay her for every day that Big was dead based on his per rate. So whatever he was getting paid to show up to do concerts, he would have to get paid that every day that he had transitioned.
Right.
And they was upward, they owed her 500 M's at that time. And they said if we give her this money, we're gonna be bankrupt because you have to pay her this in perpetuity. Right? She found out that the LAPD had a hand in it. You know what I'm saying? And then they turn around, and that's where the whole the KVD, all of these stories that are prominent now. These were the blinds that came, but they're also tethered and connected. Because again, I've been saying this in my lectures forever. The person who we cheer about, Denzel playing in Training Day, Alonzo, he was based on Rafael Perez, who was the person who was implicated from the LAPD with Clipping Big. It was David Mack and Rafael Perez. They was part of the Rampart scandal. I challenge you to Google that, family, and see how close she got to solving who was responsible. We're talking about Big. We're talking about when the epoch and the era shifted and changes. But we're also speaking about a young man who only had a 3-year run in hip hop, and we're still speaking about him however many years later about him being the best at what he do. So if nothing else, family, you got it in you to give 3 years to the game to be a legend, considered the GOAT. If you got it, magic can happen. Time is not an obstacle. right? It's the passion. It's what you can bring to this game. We're speaking about someone who reached this plateau at the tender age of 25, but what he brought to this game, and it was foundational initially because you had to put the ingredients into what hip hop was to be considered the best at hip hop. Big was that. Whether we agree with his message or not, he was the best at what he did in terms of combining the elements together, right? To make it, it's a marathon. He borrowed from the West Coast and he remixed it with a East Coast twist, and they popped. Because prior to that, Rare, remember there was a West Coast wave over hip hop so much that we went and did dancehall and reggae because New York wasn't coming up with nothing. Gangsta hip hop has suffocated the game. If it was a number game, you couldn't sell nothing near what they were selling. I'm talking about they was killing the market.
Yeah.
White America, right, buying into that facade. Again, hip hop becomes the safari bus through the zoo that you don't got to get off. Who's not gonna take that ride? For a small fee?
But it was that monetary investment. It was
it compelled because it was good business.
Well, once again, Interscope through Jimmy Iovine, Universal. There's a video floating around where an executive from Universal explains how they're so successful because they have Black music department and divisions. That's something that Clive Davis.
Bro, there's a video of somebody eating his food right now.
Yeah.
They're going into the legacy of Clive Davis, and they're like, if Diddy could be on some Rico, they're like, why is Clive? And they went through all of the stuff that happened before you was born.
Yeah, he caught a Rico in the 70s, or the equivalent of what the Rico was.
But he was with the mob.
Strugola.
Right.
Yeah.
He was with the mob with Big Dope. We talking about like the triangles, the stuff that the French Connection type stuff that we be talking about.
Yeah.
And this is why I said this when the CIA commissioned Harvard to come up with a study on how to end Black music, and they chose who? They chose their asset, Clive Davis at CBS Records. He was the one that implemented the formula of how to take the soul out of soul music. So if he did that in the late 70s and the 80s, and he started with the Philadelphia sound, Gamble and Huff, right? The document in family, this is in a book called Black to the Roots. Hold on, I got it somewhere. We'll be reading this in the book club. Shout out to Rich. We're gonna have people reading again, and it's all the way up. Because this is all information that we're not making up. The CIA commissioned him and they told him, produce the first album with live instruments the way that they always did it. They said on the second album, we're going to bring in synth instruments and take the live instrumentation, the syncopation and improvisation out of the music and make it quandine, right? And then because the CIA, now that we know, has been was studying all of the brainwave and all of the gamma stuff prior to that, they knew the formula. They knew how to detect what the energy was doing with the music, and they also knew how to clip it by bringing in digital versus analog. And Clive Davis was the one that helped them do it.
Yeah.
And then they had to stop. They took Bob Marley out the game. So by the time hip hop came, they was ready. They was already like shit. We right. Took down.
It was the
and they walked right into his office with it.
It was the Philadelphia sound that they infiltrated. The Philadelphia Stax Records and stuff.
Yes, Gamble and Huff.
Gamble and Huff. That's how Clive got in. Yeah. Right. Prior to that, they didn't have Black departments at record labels. So
that was a CIA operation.
The formula.
There's a whole book on it, y'all.
Yeah, the formula that was created, and it's still working to this day, right? Even if they try to say, "Oh, the music is not selling the same way," no, it's because it's like a cow that has been milked for all of its sustenance. The music, until the business model, until they show a new business model, this has been the business model since the 70s, and hip hop kind of like falls into that category. So it leads credence to what Panic was saying when he was saying that hip hop was created by the CIA because prior to hip hop even being created, the CIA was inside of black music. You know?
Mm-hmm. You don't think that a statement like that takes away from the creativity expressed by people to say that hip hop created, see, the CIA created hip hop? Everything that our people all over the country did to create this sound in this genre. Do you feel as though that takes away from that? I remember, and the reason why I asked that, I remember growing up here in consciousness, I would always hear people say, "Oh, the white man invented that clothing style when we used to wear real baggy clothes or
Right.
the
They're
way we
coming at you
talk."
for
They
your
were
hat. No.
they were always they were always accredit everything we do to, man, the white man told y'all to do that. The white man. I'm like, damn, even if y'all don't like it, that don't mean the white man did it. Maybe we just, innovative and we come up with different things. So
Right.
back to my original question. Yeah.
I would answer that to say that the Hip Hop Inc., right? The aspect of
Mm-hmm.
the business that people have been complaining about, the aspect of
Mm-hmm.
the business that points directly to where the crime is being committed, because there's a RICO waiting, right? The way that they're jipping people out of the contracts, the way that they're robbing people, they're not reinvesting in their neighborhoods, and all of that kind of stuff. Hip Hop Inc., right? Where a road manager
Mm-hmm.
goes on tour with Run DMC, and a few years later buys Def Jam. He goes by the name of Liar Cohen. Started out as a road manager who comes from a banking family, right? That's what I'm saying is the fingerprints of people who work behind the scenes and say, we're gonna just put some industry plants in these positions, and then we're gonna work our way into buying up all of this stock and all of, you know what I mean? All of that stuff. What I'm saying, the financials is them people. The the millions of dollars that were allocated to Universal to start gangster rap, that right there is a part of the conspiracy to say these
Okay.
people, yeah, these people, if they put out a white paper against black music in the 70s,
Mm-hmm.
then
You
they would.
know how, right? You know how I can put all of that to rest. Go listen to the third base interview, right?
Hmm.
He recently did. He's like, nah, I was in with all of them. He told them, I went in there and told them, don't do Nas like the rest of them. I was the one who knew the contracts and knew where to take certain things out. This the trapdoors in the contracts because he comes from the culture. Him, Stretch Armstrong, right? And Stretch Armstrong will go on later to create what? The smut industry. So they're tethered. These are the things that they come from. This is the stuff that they get in the envelopes at Bar Mitzvah. They know exactly what they finna do. And they know what history that they've been born into because their folks talk. So they already know that they know how to control music. Music operates off something called the black box. They come from a religion that is tethered to the black box. What's the black box? When you sign these contracts, right? And you get a manager or a publishing, you get your label to handle all of your back end stuff. That's what you sign for. If they get one thing wrong, like a decimal, a letter, anything, you don't get your royalties. It goes into what's called a black box. And if you don't claim it after 2 years, it goes to all of the executives that are part of their committee. So they're literally soul snatching. People are signing soul contracts. Their blood, sweat, and tears is going into a black box by the people who worship the black box. And you trying to tell me that the tethering and the coordination of how they have figured out to run with people's intellectual property. They already got your birthrights. They already got your land rights. Now they taking your IP for everything it's worth. So you making these stories about your pain and your agony and your struggle for the social conditions that they created, and then they making bread off of that. And all of the bread.
I'm
So royalties, because it's contingent on the publisher, how much percentage of royalties that they have to pay you. They're only paying people like 1% of what they can possibly pay you. Then they don't pay them that at all. Like Angie Stone, she didn't get paid nothing. And she was the first female hip hop act. And she got jerked by the Sylvia Rhones of the world, who, again, they put the melanated face in front, but the people behind it is Jewish mobsters. I'm listening.
Yeah, no. Yeah, yeah.
And
Interesting.
if you will let me put this piece of context on record, so I'm not just blabbering, I can read from the book. When you finish, I'll do that as well.
Yeah, Red, did you want to add on to that, Red? Indeed. So I see. Shout out to everybody in the chat. By the way, I didn't get an opportunity to let the family know that we was doing a show today. So shout out to everybody who got the notification and was able to find us. I didn't even think y'all be able to find us today, but shout out to y'all for finding us on the channel. But I'll make sure to promote the future shows to let y'all know, and it's just gonna get bigger and better, y'all. So I appreciate y'all for being with us this Sunday afternoon. What I want to touch on in terms of hip hop and in terms of criminality.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about do you think when it comes to hip hop and criminality? Do you think hip hop, in order for us to get to the point where we take back control over our culture, do we need the right type of criminal? Maybe nice guys can't. Being a nice guy just isn't going to cut it. So let's take a look at Suge Knight. Let's take a look at Irv Gotti. Let's take a look at what's the brother rapper, the brother from Texas? What's his name?
Right. Jay Prince.
Jay Prince. Now
Right.
they've all been known to dip and dab in street activities and this and that. Does it take having some gangsters on your team the necessary ingredient to overpower the gangsters that's already running hip hop? Because if we just all go in there on some conscious stuff, we're going to encounter gangsters up there. So do you
Right.
have to have gangsters on your team if you want to go up against other gangsters?
Yes, what they found out collectively and they made a move on was distribution. So
Yeah.
all of these other aspects that I spoke about, right? In order to collect royalties, specific royalties, right? Mechanics, you can collect that through what's called your PROs. So that's like your ass caps and your VMIs, and they collect one type of royalty. There's another type of royalties that only a distributor collects. So
Right.
they realized that they don't have no representation in distribution. As the label, you can't go and collect them royalties. Only the this shit that I said with a distributor, it's up to them how much percentage you get. So even the money that Death Row was flaunting that made them seem like they was the biggest label, they was operating off of a percentage of what they was getting for total proceeds, and that still was enough to make them seem like they was balling, right?
Right.
Same as like the biggest person on YouTube. They would definitely seem like we would look at a Mr. Beast and be like, whoa. But if they're paying him 0.83% off of a click, you know what I'm saying? Again, that's what are they making? Because that's an agreed upon portion that they have decided, you know what I mean, to share with him. That's ad share. But what is the ad revenue? So they figured we want to go and get the big piece of the pie. You can't do that alone. Not then you couldn't. So they had to group up. Yes, because they come from a hustler background. You know you want to be the plug. That's the distributor. That's Jeff and them. You know what I'm saying? Once Jeff get it over the border and it get to the trap house, you know, and then that's your man's in them. That's like your label. You feel me? But they got to go and get it from the big dog. They don't got nowhere else to get it from. So the distribution is you know what I mean, is the channel that gets it out. So they attempted to make a move on a consolidated, centralized market, which was distribution, and they got shut down horribly once again because if the industry is CIA ran, you know what I'm saying? This is they keep sending the feds in because the feds are the ones that deal with this stuff domestically. CIA is the ones who gather the intelligence. They don't pop up and do the nabbing. They inform the people on the lower levels, yo, They over there scheming. We still got the ghetto informant program going, which you think the clientele stopped. So no, this is all about what did they say? Yo, we got ratted out. Who ratted them out? The nigga that's with the all Israelis today. You see how that worked? Right? Rewarded for the loyalty of selling your brothers out, he's sitting in the seat as a billionaire. They
So
obviously
you,
has
you,
he
you
could
think that
call in favors. Look where he just dodged.
Yeah.
So
So everything that was told to us, the plausibility of it being true, we can weigh it and gauge it against what we just saw. And what's the one thing they keep saying? Yo, you don't want to F with son. He could call in favors from up above.
So you referring to Hove?
Yes.
So do you really think Hove got Tory locked up on some shit?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes. Understanding what I know
Yeah.
about the game right now,
mhm.
um, and getting behind the scenes and really studying contracts and distribution, Tory Lanez
Mhm.
put the music industry on his back. You know, Jay-Z is tethered, he's part of that particular club. That's a mafia within itself. That's a secret society on its own. And we're speaking about the people that sit to get this part of the black box, the people that are part of, let's say that's like the Grammy committee. You know what I'm saying? They get
Mhm.
distribution. It's 400 million a year go to the coffers that get released to people that are part of the black box. None of these artists are collecting their royalties. Because there's a different set of royalties that they don't know nothing about, that they don't have no access to, that all of that is being fed to them. So it's a racket, bro. Like, it was so disrespectful for Liar to say, I'm putting my children. No, your children should have been through college a long time ago. Because you come from a banking family, so you could take one of your checks and put it into IRA bond and make sure that you lying. Come on, son, you taking advantage of us playing these games in front of people's face. How much do you need? And the thing with them is, yes, they won't give you a penny. It's never enough. This is personal at this point. And it's like it's a price that you pay for not reading it's a price that you pay for not knowing the fine print. It's a price that you pay for running into traps. It's a price that you pay for not acknowledging your ancestors to be like, damn, if they got the best of us, the smartest of us, what makes me think that me not reading my contract and allowing somebody else to do it put me in a position where I could sit back 10 years later and think that my crypto gonna hit?
But
So
blue, red. All right. So we go ahead, red.
being surrounded by gangsters is not a viable business model. If it was, they would be empires that were built already. I mean, we're 50 years into hip hop. I would say step into the room with 20 lawyers. You know, shout out to Receipts in the chat. He mentioned that, or she mentioned that. Step into the room with some lawyers because those are the real gangsters in corporate America and whatnot. Not the
Yeah.
ones, wait up, not the ones who resort to violence, not the ones who resort to strong arm tactics and racketeering. No, those are, to be honest with you, those will be the ones that are going to get you trapped up and whatnot. You know what I mean? The lawyers, I got lawyers watching lawyers so I don't go broke and whatnot. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like that's what they need more of. Not even an agent or a manager because they're compromised. Financial advisors, they're compromised. They kind of work for the ops and whatnot. You see people, and even you got to even make sure your lawyer don't work for the label.
And
But
that's right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what they fall into that trap. Majority their lawyers work for the label. So it's like you going to court with it and they work for the bar and they all part of it. They work for the state, but your lawyer versus you versus the state, it don't make sense. And what I wanted to say to quell people's suspicions is yes, we can go with lawyers. Back in the days, we could have went in with, with the muscle and the brawn. But today, because of technology, we can go over everyone's head. So after studying this for 8 something months, right after Angie Stone made transition, my team, we were able to actually knock out a physical apparatus, a app that has all of the information contained in one place where we don't have to go and sign these contracts. We don't got to go to them people to collect royalties or anything of that nature. So technology is the maximizing agent right now in the production of the music and the distribution of the music and the making of the videos. It has decentralized and democratized everything that we can catapult and do things of our wildest dreams in this industry. And I think that, yes, that's going to be the energy that we need to restore the culture with. That's going to be the energy that we need to bring back the culture minus criminality with. That's going to be, the thing that signals the fact that we are in Aries and Neptunes, because we're leading and we're using our heads to do it. And how do we use our minds and our heads? We say that technology is the technique. We are in Aries. This is a martial season. Martial arts is all about the technique. If you master the technique, you can trump anything else that they got going, because the technique is the technology. You feel me? Technique itself is technology, meaning that in martial arts, right? Think about this. The youngest dudes in there is the strongest, but they always succumb to the oldest who is the wisest, because he mastered technique. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
It's no coincidence that those turntables are called technique.
Mm.
And our young gods mastered the techniques. You know what I'm saying? The
Respect.
brother Grandmaster Flash and all of that mastered the techniques about how to mix records and scratch them backwards and open up portals to worlds, utilizing carbon and a centrifugal force, going the right way of the planet. So imagine if we could have harnessed the creativity factor that these minds came with. Hip hop was a medium that becomes the answer to our nana's prayers for us. Where they like, look, I'm gonna give you something that you can feed yourself with. Just like AI, just like crypto was an answer to consciousness's cries about sovereignty. The universe has overcompensated and over rewarded us for our cries. Our cries have not gone unheard. It's the technique. How have we applied the knowledge?
Wow, yeah, that's a yeah. We about to wrap it up in a second. I want to get to about 2 or 3 questions from the people in the chat. Somebody in the chat said technology is the gangster now. Well, I guess Spotify is the gangster, huh?
Now
They the ones
they
beating dudes
are.
over the head, and people can't master the algorithm.
These are nerds.
Right,
Everyone on their staff is billionaires.
right.
You talking about
Larry
gangsters?
Jackson,
They don't got to check in.
they don't got to
Mm.
check in.
Go ahead.
Larry Jackson from the company called Gamma, who's behind Sexy Red and whatnot, and he's also the guy who linked up with Drake to push streaming on the artists, because Drake was the one who became the face of streaming, and he got everybody else on board. That's through Larry Jackson, who was with Apple Music and whatnot. Straight nerd.
Mm-hmm.
The dude running Zeus and whatnot, right? Straight nerd, right? This is Revenge of the Nerds. You got creators who are naturally gifted as musicians and songwriters being clout chasers now because they cannot understand the algorithm. They want to go viral. The label will tell you now, you want to get on, you want your album to become priority, go viral. Go viral. And they talking greasy to them because they like, yo, y'all don't even know y'all don't know the technology. Y'all don't understand the algorithm.
You're slaves to the algorithm, right?
Straight
So
like
now
that.
they're pimping them, right? Um, because you're gonna be a contract slave one way or the other if you don't know the game. Anyone that has you sell your soul or sign your soul over, they like, shit, what else can I get you to do? The most. So you got nerds trying to be gangsters to go viral, and all of the gangsters want to be nerds to become billionaires. And with that,
Mm.
we are in an amazing place nonetheless, brothers. Trust me when I tell you, the ancestors have been very kind and they have shown their grace on us. And I kid you not, I talk a lot, but I be damned if I ain't got receipts. Damned if I ain't got receipts, bro. So we have brought solutions for our people, and in the season of Aries, we'll be doing unveilings very soon, and showing the family how we can confidently move forward with courageousness and confidence because we got it figured out and we don't got to go to them for nothing ever again. And you're gonna see the tears on their eyes. You're gonna see how they react and respond to when real gangsters show up with that technology.
Mm. The last thing I want to bring up before we get out of here, red and blue, is we often talk about the labels and we talk about the platforms and we talk about all this and we understand what technology has allowed for us to take back control over our sound, our music, and different things of that nature. When you see artists, let's just use an artist like Cambada. He has a lot of music out there, a lot of music. Albums from with me, albums by himself, other collaborative works that he's done with Red Pill, Blue Pill, Rock. I forget the brother's name that be with Rock. What's his name?
Soul Messiah.
Soul Messiah.
Classic.
Loaded Lux.
Loaded Lux.
Talking
A whole
classic.
album with Loaded Lux.
Yeah.
Why hasn't, and it's great music, why do you think Cambada hasn't reached a high level of success yet? Why isn't his music more out there? If he's obviously, once somebody hears him, they say, wow, he's one of the best dudes out there. Why hasn't his because before we could have blamed it on the labels, we could have blamed it on Lior. Lior could have been the big bad ghost, and we could say it's Lior's fault. Lior holding him back. But guess what, guys? Hey, hold up. Here's a secret. Here's a secret, y'all. Psst. Lior's not holding Cambada back. So what I want to ask y'all, and I don't want to say it too loud, is what's holding an artist with that much talent, that much good music that's already out there? Why aren't the people responding to him?
I would say three things. One,
the way they should. Shout out to everybody the way they should.
Everybody, and I got three, and this is an assessment of the brand, right? Yeah. One is the DJs. They have failed us. They have failed us in ways that I cannot fathom.
Right.
They are the ones who break artists. They don't do that anymore.
Right. Facts.
They are the ones that drop bombs and get you hype about the artist to go and check their back catalog. They don't do that anymore. They're the ones who build up the buzz around the artists and whatnot, right? And they are bridge builders as well. Yo, I want you to get with this person. You should make some. They drop the ball on that. Two, I don't care if you're a major artist or you're a small artist, which is called independent. We are now in a new day and age where you have to have a marketing budget. There is no more quote unquote. You know what I mean? You can compete with the majors if you spend money on yourself daily and weekly and whatnot in order to get your product or your brand in front of people who are on your quote unquote frequency, right? And there's ways to do it on Facebook Marketplace, the business page and everything. That's one thing. And I would say the third aspect
forecast a 100% chance.
I would say the third one and that assessment that I would do, like I would be, if we had a consultation, this is what I would be telling them. Huh?
I'm like, nigga, this sound like a consultation. Let's hear it.
Right. So it would definitely be the marketing, because all somebody has to do is hear him, right? Like you said, he has a body of work. And, and then the third would be what Cairo said. It's the community. They are fickle. They have not produced a platinum artist since they've been calling themselves a community. They have not produced a gold single, and everybody is listening to something every day. Why isn't Londrell platinum? Why isn't Free
Free
Soul
Soul.
platinum? Why isn't
Who's the community, Red? What are you talking? Who's the community?
the spiritual community, the woke community, the conscious community? It's a lot of them. It's not just one community.
But once
Everybody
again,
who considers themselves to be of a high frequency and whatnot, it is their duty, because this is the hip hop audience that I'm speaking to mostly. Yeah, there's elders inside of this community and they could get a pass and whatnot. But I'm speaking about the youth who came in on this shit because they had young teachers like Young Pharaoh. They had youthful teachers who were speaking their language. They had the clothes and everything. So they are responsible for pushing these artists into superstardom, not Europeans, you know what I mean? Not people from the suburbs and whatnot, not the hood, the people at the farmers market. They don't, you know what I mean? They gotta make their dollars count. I would never put it on the shoulders of white people or anybody outside of this culture, because they don't understand what the brother might be saying. But let me share something with you about hype and buzz. That's where marketing and promotion comes in. With the right marketing and promotion in, I'll listen to anybody. You know how many artists I discover after they get murked and whatnot? Because the blogs is talking about them. YouTubers talking about them. You know what Jada Kid said.
They got a whole genre that they spike. Majority of these artists spike after they get bodied because they don't be having them plays. Again, we're not speaking about the Bigs and the Pocs. These are not the epic artists of the era.
Right. These are not legacy artists.
They make they make provocative news lines, and then
right.
Like, oh, let me go and see what homie was on. He'd be like,
right.
Oh,
So the same way that they could do that for somebody that's not here is the same way that a podcast or a blog or somebody that gets paid for marketing could beef you up. Shade Room, Spiritual World, all of these platforms should be onboarding Kambada when he drops a single or when he farts. There should be a report about it. That's where PR comes in. So marketing is public relations, marketing and promotion, you know what I mean? Through Facebook ads, YouTube ads, Instagram ads, TikTok ads, and then you get on podcasts, you go on a podcast chitlin circuit, because that's what a publicist does for you. So that would be the trappings to get them out there. Excellent.
God damn. Yeah, that was a very thorough assessment, and as well, you know, again, if we can change the paradigm of how he sees himself to be incentivized to engage with his audience and push his product, because the energy that you put out is gonna be, you know what I mean? Like when I watched the brother D-Lo, what's his name, Red?
Boss Man D-Lo.
And I'm like, for people to be like, yo, them niggas is trash, they don't be talking. I'm like, for niggas that don't be talking about nothing, they damn sure be into the nothing that they be talking about. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm compelled to watch just because of how he's feeling, what he's saying. And I'm like, yeah, this is a business for him, even if he says it's a hustle. Like, this is, you know what I mean? He's selling himself. So, right. And Red said it, there's really not a vehicle that can ride through consciousness, because it's a figment of our imagination. It's an amorphous idea that doesn't physically have tangible train tracks that you could put a locomotive on to get you some motion. So if he wants to get promo, right, he got to go into spaces. He did it. You got to go into Sway, right? These hip hop centric, you know, venues. But consciousness, if a Young Pharaoh don't co-sign him, if a Rashad Jamal don't co-sign him, the way that their audience is possibly cultish to a degree where they like, yeah, if my guy like it, I like it too. But if they don't speak on it, I don't even have the wherewithal to hear whether it's slapping or not. So when you miss those metrics, and then this becomes like border, because they come from the backdrop of gang culture and drill culture. So they're like, oh, if homie don't F with y'all the ops. That's how the youngsters think. right? And they like, why would I listen to Unc? He ain't 19 like me, right? They're not gonna go out of their way to look and find something that's not in front of their face when everything that they feel is important pops up on their phone and speaks to them. So
Like somebody in the chat said, a retweet could change your life.
change your life, right? So I at that point, right? So I sat there the other day and I listened to Joyner Lucas's catalog, and I'm like, damn, if Joyner Lucas can pop and I'm not taking nothing, no, let's not do that.
Yeah. Nah, he gets busy.
Let's not take nothing from Joyner Lucas, right?
He gets
But
busy.
I'm like, Cam is that caliber. Cam is right there with it. You know what I mean? What technology is what the differentiated factor for him was, right? In relationships, Cam gotta really want it because you gotta hit the festival. You gotta reintroduce yourself over and over again. And then once you got it in a vice grip, you gotta strangle it. And again, artists that are now, you gotta deal with family life. You know what I mean? That stuff that Pac said at the end of Mortal Men, when you 19 and 25, right? On some Aries-ish. This is when you pop your ish. This is when you get it in. It's when the warriors go to war. He's like, I ain't heard nobody over 35 talking no smack, right? Unks get ready for the retirement. They start getting the wheelchair ready. Elders for council. We gonna change that paradigm. I'm outside with the bullies and the billies and the rest of them because I'm like, nah, you know, it's you gotta it has changed, it's transformed. And on God, on mama, if Cam got a crack when he's 70, right? It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen because he has what it takes. Now he needs what we have, which is the back end of the business and a vision that we can share with him that he can agree upon. But I definitely feel that Cam's golden years are still ahead. Once we understand the game, and it's wide open for Cam right now because of what a Kendrick did.
Yes, he set the table.
Set the table.
And his counterpart is Cyrock.
Look, Cam is what Daylight is out west.
Facts.
Not taking nothing. Shout out to my brother Lux. I love Lux. Lux ate on that. Look, I will be going mixtape Lux. I will call Cam and I would say you and Lux need to eat every beat right now on some summer shootout. That's how you get your name known in these streets. Look what Daylight is doing in response to that they thought that Joey Badass was trying to even initiate like he wanted something with K Dot. He created a flurry of barrage. And I found out so many new West Coast artists that he put his head in the sand like an ostrich and took everything down, packed his bags and got up out of there. The lyricists are not playing right now, bro. It's Gatlin. I'm telling you, it's crazy out here. Because Kendrick showed them what a bar can do for you.
Oh,
a
yeah.
bar.
Change your life. Dude, the new thing, like the new aspiration for a real artist is to have these dudes on the internet break your shit down. Like that's the new flex. To get your song decoded by the professor and
by that whole think tank
of
the culture. They call it the culture unified and all of them. If they start defragmenting your work and speaking about you in those terms, you out of here. And that's a new paradigm. So he needs new material. You feel me? To be put in that space. Once he becomes part of the conversation and they do their homework, because that's the beauty of this. Because hip hop media now is a new media. Let's say I just comb my hair, right? Y'all just see me combing my hair, that static electricity, right? But let's say that I got a cut and I smoothed it out, right? And I cut off the rough edges. That's where hip hop media is at right now. But if you come along and make noise, then they do their research and see that the roots go deep, then your story becomes even more compelling. Because there's people that haven't been part of the culture for forever that are now narrating the culture that understand at least oh, this nigga's yeah. Like I know bars when I hit them. I know talent when I see it, and they will speak to it. They'll speak to their compatriots, and then you see what they think in here, right? Because a lot of them people that are in panel are also gatekeepers that they don't want to let no consciousness in
That's what I
because
was
it
about to
ruins
say.
the party.
Right. I don't trust.
Yeah,
I do
it
not
ruins
trust
the party.
them.
They like keep them deep niggas out of here.
Yeah. These are like Poindexters who are like pick-me's. That's where the hip hop journalism. Elliot Wilson is a pick-me, right? These are 50-plus-year-old journalists attempting to act like they understand what 20-year-olds are rapping about. That's egregious, bro. These are pick-me's. So they will probably try to stunt on a Kambata because he don't have a retweet by a Rakim or one of them. They will try to take advantage of him not having that story and that backing and whatnot.
All press is good press right now. I hear you though.
It is because
it could go either way. You know what I mean?
It could go either way
because they are primed to still look at certain metrics, and because they want to be purists, they're like, "Oh, why haven't the purists got on with Eminem didn't get all that."
Right.
Then you use that leverage. All press is good press when you are looking to make impact in a populace where people are going to be reintroduced to you for the first time. Kendrick brought in hundreds of millions of new people.
I would just say this, right? Like there was a rapper who made transition named Ka, Brooklyn Ka, right, from Brownsville.
Yes, Rising Power.
Right. Then there was another rapper who I did some research on. I believe it was Knowledge the Pirate from Rock Marciano's camp.
Knowledge the Pirate transition?
No. He didn't transition. Oh. No. What I'm saying is, when it came to me finding out about people, right?
You found about.
I watched a podcaster speak on them in a way where I wanted to run. I went and ran and listened to West Side Gun's discography. Because I listened to West Side Gun, but I didn't know the story of West Side Gun until a podcaster knew and broke down the nuances of West Side Gun.
That part, right.
That's what Kambata needs. He needs somebody who's well-versed into consciousness, into the things that he's talking about, and the different iterations of him, because there's different levels of Kambata.
Yeah.
And you have to entice the listener to say, I'm running to the streaming service to listen to that guy right now because I'm curious because of what I just heard, right? Even if there was some type of critiques in the podcast, it's all good. Critique that person, but interest me enough to want to go and listen to him amongst all of this noise. 10,000 people are uploading a song an hour.
Ooh.
10,000. And I'm lowballing, Blue. I'm lowballing, right? So there's a lot of people out there.
Oh, shit.
So you got to be able to cut through the noise and make somebody interesting out of that whole pool of artistry that's out there.
How do you rise to the top of that playlist? I'm listening.
So the podcasters are almost in the same type of critique that the DJ, because the podcasters are like DJs now because they break artists, right? So I've been sending Professor Sky Cam's music. I've been A&Ring and managing without even telling the brother, but I've been inboxing him. Yo, you heard about this brother? Yo, you heard about that brother? Yo, this brother's super hot. You should do a review on the album. Man, this dude is making mad noise. You should check this out. Just playing my part.
Right.
Because even every individual, once again, like I said, the community, if the community formed Voltron to stop hating on one another, and that's no disrespect, because a lot of people came into this community riding the wave of hate. No, for real, because it was debating and everybody was hating on one another. Carpet. They came in riding the wave of hate. So they don't even support one another in a sense. They do a more finger pointing before they create superstars amongst their own, right? But if they were all working together, they would be sending out emails. Like if you go after the FBA, if you say anything about FBA, there's a beehive
Yo, yeah, there's a mailing list.
Activate.
You will end up on a newsletter, my nigga.
Yes.
And they're going to buzz your account. Why is that shit not being utilized for promo of products, packages, breakthroughs, or people of interest? Because, and again, y'all making Mark Zuckerberg right by saying the algorithm responds more aggressively to negativity than it does positivity, right? So he's going up against that. What type of music does he make? Does it fit into the algorithm? How do you cut through the noise? It's his visuals as well. This game is a visual game.
Right.
It's
It's
a
a
visual
TikTok
game.
algorithm. Blue.
It's a hold on, just like you told me.
Mm-hmm.
I know I was waiting for that shit, right? So visually, yeah, he gotta have them reels, he gotta have them videos, and it's those things are needed. Everyone don't need it. You know what I'm saying? Everyone has not utilized it. I listened to nonstop the God Fahim albums. I have not seen a video of his yet. I don't even know what he looked like. But
Right.
that's the hip hop I never knew that I was missing. I love that shit.
Right. And you brought up an interesting point. I sent you an article about this app. I don't know if you got it or not. But the Drake album, they went viral for using this app.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what the app is it incentivizes creators to basically post your content. It's called user generated content, UGC, right? And there's an app there's somebody created and it's blowing up right now. And I feel like that's what we could incorporate in the community and whatnot, incentivize, give people $1. We're not doing it off the muscle and whatnot.
Share this one for me, like you got shares in my company.
Right.
That has to be
like you got shares in my company.
Right. If we incentivize the people to promote Cam as their favorite artist or the artist that has to be seen because they get a fraction of a penny anytime somebody clicks, then that's going to change how people show up, right? These again, technology is showing you how to utilize digital street market teams. Because I come from the industry, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
I left that shit to come back to this shit. To you know what I mean? On June 26, 2009, when I left Epic and came to Harlem and showed you inside Netta how to upload a YouTube video, I was like, I need to learn.
Brother, you didn't show me how to upload a YouTube video, brother. Don't think this.
I said,
Don't do that.
Netta.
You said you and Sarnetta. Don't do
I
that,
was
bro.
talking about Red.
I've seen. I'll mess with you, but don't do that. Don't do that.
That was in 2009. Who showed you how to upload a YouTube video after that?
Well, who showed me?
At Jackie's house.
Huh?
We was at Jackie Rose's house when
no.
Black and white.
That was 2007. I'm saying when I had the flip cam, the HD Ultra.
You brought the upgrade.
Yeah, and I was like, yo, we could shoot video right here with the HD Ultra and then upload it right to YouTube. When we opened YouTube in 07, it wasn't the medium that it was by time 09 came. This was for the Michael Jackson run. And I showed Red how to upload and Red showed Sarnetta. Both of them created those two platforms at that same time. What I'm saying is that it always has been about technology. When we learn new technology, we come back to the community to say, yo, this shit can go this way. What I'm saying is when I came from the music industry, the main thing that ran promotions was street teams. And what made consciousness effective initially because we existed within a bubble. So the echo chamber of street team was if you had an event and word of mouth carried, you didn't need the internet back then. You know what I'm saying? The flyers were secondary, but then we got the radio going, then we got the channels going, and then the street team promotion is everybody's coming up and down 125th to get product or check in on the community. So that apparatus of what I'm speaking about in terms of street team, right? Consistent promotion, that is what changes and shifts paradigms, specifically when we're speaking about striking while the iron is hot. Like, oh, you got a video shoot tomorrow and you need 100 people there? How are you going to do that? It was a lot easier to do it on 125th.
Yo, Blue, real quick. Before we go, should street teams return? Is that something
I'm
that
saying that
should
what
come
Red
back?
is saying is yes, that nothing can be done without street teams. That all businesses need promotion, and in music specifically, you need a street team, but it's digital street teams now, and there are apps that have been created that are effective. The way that Drake rode to the success of a #1 single with Nokia is he implemented a street team method where we can't say, oh, he went #1 because people like the song. We can't say he went #1 because he's hot again or he got the, you know what I mean? He got the wave. We can't say none of that. We can say that he incentivized
Right.
micro creators to
Right.
create content that they were getting fractions of pennies off of. And per 1,000 streams, they got 25 cents, I believe.
Right.
And people were buying cars, paying mortgages,
Oh yeah, it came up.
right? Buying cribs for their mamas, right?
Yep.
Utilizing the opportunity that he gave them in terms of fractionally engaging his audience. So think about this: the Canada ninjas, the ones that are living up here above the demarcation line is the Bronx, my nigga. Anything above that, we never seen hip hop up there. But they in their mind, they utilizing. So Tory Lanez broke the industry with his methodology of what? Fractionally allowing through cryptocurrency his fan base to get rich with him. Because what he was doing, he was selling NFT. Let's say I bought it for $1. Right? His album, he was selling it for $1. Right? He sold 1 million of them joints. The secondary market though, right? Is that you automatically gonna 10x. Meaning that if I bought it for $1, I damn sure could resell it for $10, but I really could sell it for 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
He broke the model because he solved the main issue, which was distribution. How did he solve that? By incentivizing the people that he's distributing to be part of his distribution system. That's the same
Hey,
thing that Drake just did.
is that ultimately why people feel like Jay and them got him locked up because of that power move that he did right there?
That's what I was sharing with you earlier. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, let me just, if I can, brothers, let me put this on the record real quick before we
Yeah.
conclude.
Yeah.
This is a passage out of the book Black to the Roots, Reggae's Rise, Downpression, and Renaissance is written by R.A. Patah's son, Shabazz, PhD. And this book was published by Ross Ben, okay? And this is on page 99. And they're speaking about the methodology that was utilized by Chris Blackwell, who was the manager of Bob Marley and the Wailers, who was also a CIA asset and a Harvard graduate, to undermine reggae music. And he used a template that was perfected in the US by Clive Davis. So here this goes. Ironically, the insightful Linton Kwesi Johnson at the time would recognize, albeit with skepticism, that Bob Marley and the Wailers have undoubtedly set the stage for the gradual rise of reggae, because they were the breakout reggae artists, right? They are the ambassadors of reggae. What happens from here on remains to be seen. And reggae is roots and culture. This is the liberation music from a melanated people in Jamaica. Interestingly, in the creation of this new hybrid reggae, there was no editing of the philosophical lyrics, which were tacit indictments and convictions against Babylon's neo-colonial world order inspired by the Wailers strengthening Rastafari faith. Ironically, as the African-American producer Danny Sims sought to avoid such race-conscious lyrics, the white Jamaican Chris Blackwell, on the other hand, positively welcomed it. Blackwell's strategy in boldly marketing the militant societal critiques of the Wailers and later other reggae artists in their early promotions will resemble some of the recommendations in the scheme proposed to CBS by the Harvard University Business School for usurping control of Black America's music market. Now, family in the audience, this is where I need y'all to do the research. The suspicious plan was obscurely printed and disseminated on May 11th, 1972, as a study of the soul music environment prepared for Columbia. So y'all have to research a study of the soul music environment prepared for Columbia. This was put together by Harvard, right? A CBS Records affiliate. As a result of applying Harvard's recommendations, CBS will play a central competitive role in the bankrupting of Stack Records, the Black-run Memphis label. This would occur amidst media speculation about high-level CBS involvement in drug payments to DJs, payola, right? With then CBS president Clive Davis willful, visibly making him vulnerable to suspicious minds. CBS then co-opted a significant portion of the soul R&B market by forming an alliance with Mighty 3 Music, the publishing company of Philadelphia producers Kenny Gamble, Leon Huff, and Tom Bell, right? And I just ended there, but we'll be delving definitely more into this book, and then we'll get into the document once y'all do the research, so we can show and prove undoubtedly, right, that they had the science, they knew the mechanics of the music, they knew that the spirit and the soul existed in it, and they wasn't pumping with it, so they had to devise a scheme on how to attack the music as a medium.
Yeah.
And
Shit. What a powerful way to conclude the show. I want to thank everybody once again. Somebody said, I didn't know DJ Academics, he interviewed Ye. Y'all seen that yet? Somebody in the chat said that.
Today, yeah.
Yeah.
Or just dropped today?
We'll be covering it. Yeah, it just dropped today. Very controversial.
Okay.
And you know, this is breaking news. It's all the latest and the greatest. This is the reason and season. The hip hopolist is here, home of hip hop culture. I appreciate you, brothers.
First one down.
Yeah,
First one of many down. Family, once again, thank you. I'm gonna check that out. I ain't watched DJ Academic since he did that child molestation shit. But I might have to check out the Ye interview.
I ain't even watching.
You know what I'm saying?
Let me see. You got that bottle of water, Rich? Let me see the bottle of water that you just had.
We got to get Vibe this cartel on the internet.
Yeah, put that in a bowl with some ice in it and dip your face in it before you watch the Academic. You need the ice bowl. You know what I mean? Because you know, he's not an easy listen. You know what I mean? His energy, his just overall disposition is somewhat repellent.
It's off.
You know, it's off. You know what I mean? He has to be a little
such a
he needs some Reiki.
Indeed. Hey man, with that being said, thank you once again, y'all. Tune out. I think the next episode we should do it live. Like maybe at Black Wall Street or somewhere like that.
Yeah,
and we invite people
or the studio.
We have like a live audience.
Yeah.
Let's get that.
Have like a live audience. I think that'd be dope.
Yeah,
all right, I'm gonna see y'all next. We're gonna see y'all soon. I'm gonna keep you updated on my channel. Blue will keep you updated on his platform. Red will keep up you on his platform. We'll all let you know, but it's coming soon, family. A lot of stuff to talk about. Thanks for tuning in. We signing out. Peace, y'all.
Peace.
Peace.
All right.